is Bob Downs, and it's March 23rd, 2017, and I'm with Delane. This is part 2, Delane Blondeau. So we're going to talk a little bit today about some of the, at least the groups in Portal and maybe Portal Rescue. So Delane, you wanted to start with So What?
I'm going to start with So What.
Yeah. What is So What? Just in case
So
somebody
What is a ladies group, and it does service things, like we give scholarships to local high school kids, and we do little things for Cypress Inn, which
That's a senior citizen place or nursing home? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
mostly that
Yeah.
kind of people who need help.
Yeah.
And it's more than assisted living, it's more help than that.
Yeah.
Down at Douglas,
Okay.
like we do little thingies for Valentine's.
Yeah.
Most all the people are diabetic, and so the candy has to be sugar-free,
Yeah.
which is worse for them than the sugar, but anyhow.
Yeah. That's another story.
Anyhow, and I take magazines,
Yeah.
and I have a pen pal down there,
Yeah.
and that's a fun thing.
I'll just add too, So What does forums, right?
Yes.
They sponsor speakers on topics because I've been, so that's another important thing
Yes.
to do. Yeah.
And so those there are and we give money to Portal Rescue.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So you wanted to talk about the history of it? and
I
how
want
that-
to talk about when I came into it and
Okay. Great.
how it was.
Yeah.
Okay, when I first came, it was an extension service club.
Well, I didn't
And
know that.
those were started in 1914, I believe. And land-grant colleges
Yeah.
had this extension service for rural women, supposed to educate them a little more,
Yeah.
like home things.
Yeah.
Well, they already knew the home things, but
Yeah.
the ladies liked to go. It gave them a club away from the kids.
Yeah.
And my mother used to go in Texas.
Huh.
Well, this one, the year I was president of So What, I went to all of these meetings here, there, somewhere else, and it had nothing to do with what we wanted to do. And so I said, this doesn't fit us. We can do our own club better, and I'm getting us out of this. And so I did. And I went and got us out so that we were no longer extension.
Was that after like 1980, or do you remember?
I
when?
believe it was 84. I thought I read in here it was 84, maybe.
Yeah, just a general idea. So okay. So
And so, so we were out. But I was interested in how did this thing start? So I tried to go back and learn what I could about the beginning. And it was very meager. The people who would have known had already died. And I talked to their daughters, Sally Richards and Audrey Miller.
yeah.
Well, their mothers were big clubbers, but as you might know, the daughters said, we've had that, we're not going to be clubbers. So they didn't really know much about it, but they told me what they knew.
Yeah.
We had some old minutes that we went back and looked into.
Yeah.
And I took everything that I could learn, and I wrote it up. And Jeannie Williams, who was working with the Douglas Historical Society, said, oh, we need to put that in one of the quarterlies. So she did, and therefore we've got it in perpetuity.
Yeah, for future.
We
yeah.
know. When I went back to find out about So What, I knew that Sally Richards' mother, Lily Darnell, had been a big part of the club. And a little card came here, somebody had written, and it said, Lily Darnell organizes So What Club about 1945.
Wow.
That was probably a reorganization
Mm-hmm.
because Sally Richards, Lily's daughter, remembered that before she went to school, she was going to club with her mother, and that would be in 1928 or so.
Wow.
So we know it was tricking along. And I went to the Extension Service, and they said, here is a charter of organization in 1924 for the So What Club.
And that's specific here to Portals.
Yes.
Right? Oh,
Yes.
And I was going to ask you, were they all these clubs called So What, or was that
No,
the name this group here in Portal
each
decided?
club gave its own name.
Okay.
And evidently this so stuff was kind of the thing.
Yeah.
And I understand Animus named theirs the So-So Club. So people were just
Because of the sewing, yeah.
working off that name.
Okay.
So,
So-
I talked to the lady when I first came here where Penny Johnson used to live, and Deb lives now, Johnson.
Deb Johnson, yeah.
Another lady lived in that house, and her name was Dorothy Bliss. And Dorothy Bliss had been secretary for the So What Club for a long, long time. And so it was her minutes that I found and put together for this.
Yeah.
And I talked to her about it. And she said, oh, I remember when it got its name. Now, I think she's talking about 1945.
Yes.
So what
Yes.
it was called before then, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, oh, how did it get its name? She said, well, the lady who was organizing, Lily Darnell, they were trying to get something together for ladies to get away from the cowboys and the kids for a while.
Right.
And just talk with ladies. 'Cause
Right.
ladies like to do that.
Right.
And so some little person said, oh, we could sew. And the organizers said, deprecatingly, although I don't think Lily was like that, so what? She did not have in mind any sewing. It was to learn
Right.
interesting things.
Right.
So that's Dorothy told me where it got its name, and this was probably in 1945.
Okay.
I think there was something before then, because Lily Darnell came out here, only her name was something else then. Her Darnell's her married name.
Yeah.
She came out to Arizona in about 1912, and she homesteaded over there about at Apache.
Oh.
And she built a little adobe house and ran a school in there.
Huh.
She had been trained at Hardin Simmons in Texas to be a teacher.
So she founded the Apache School then?
No,
No? Okay.
no, she didn't.
Okay.
I don't know how Apache
Okay.
School got
Okay.
started, but she did teach there,
Yeah.
and she taught in another, and that was in her house.
Yeah. Oh, I
And
see.
then there was a place called Lone Oak School, which was somewhere between 80 and Sulphur Canyon, and she taught there, and she even taught in Portal a little bit. And there was a school, there was a Portal school before the one that we have now. The one we have now was built in 1930.
Okay.
And she might have taught in this one, but there was another one before that that was up above Cathedral Rock Lodge. It was up on the ledge there somewhere.
Huh.
And then it was wood or something, and they
Yeah, it didn't
built
last.
the adobe one down in Portal.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
move the school down there.
We've got
Anyhow.
another whole thing to trace schools.
Yes.
You know, we better get back to so what.
Talk to Sheila
Clark,
about
she's
that.
doing something this
Yes,
Friday.
on Friday.
So, yeah.
She's going to talk.
Yeah. So I thought I'd go to that.
Come and record her.
That's what I thought. Somebody should
Okay.
or will. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
so I thought Lily was a organization lady. And I figured if she came in 1912, she was wheeling and dealing in those days.
Right.
So that's why I think the club is much older than whenever it got into the Extension Club. When I came into it, then that's what it was, and I got us out of it.
Yeah.
And then we began to do our own programs. And Jeannie Williams got us into doing the forums. And then somebody else got us into helping at the rest home. And so we just expanded with time in our own interests.
Let me go back because you maybe said it, Delane, but the reason you changed, you wanted to make it. You wanted to be more involved, or why did you make the change from, well, we don't want to do it the way they've sort of designed it, we want to do our own thing? What was the thinking? Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, I kept going to these as president, I kept going to these meetings every month. Boring, and they were about fabrics, new fabrics that have come out. Well, our ladies weren't sewing. We were kind of a split community. We had the old-time ranchers, the Millers in particular, and the Richards in particular. And so it was a ranching country then. We didn't have the houses we have now.
Right.
Those houses mostly came in when the Three Triangle broke itself into 40-acre plots and began to sell off to people.
Where was that? We're going to divert again here. That's fine. Where was the Three Triangle?
The one that Cavalier owns
now.
Okay.
It's called 4 Bar now.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
But it was Three Triangle then, and it belonged to the Millers and some cooperation thing. I'm not quite sure what that other group was.
So get us back on track. You were saying there were the ranching, the
people.
Yes.
And then there were the scientificos,
Yeah.
the people who came out and did their scientific work at the research station
Yeah.
and then decided to retire here.
Yeah.
Two different kinds of people in the same community.
Yeah.
So they were not interested in extension stuff.
Right.
So new fabrics, they didn't care. They bought theirs at the store in ready-made clothes.
Right. Yeah. Who
And
needs to sew?
so then I said to myself, I am not going to pass this on to the next president. I'm getting us out of it.
Yeah.
And we're going to make our own speakers.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did.
And so you kind of, the group of women came together and figured out these different ideas of what they wanted to do.
Yes.
And it seems like a lot of them, I don't know if that was the intention, have to do with helping out in the community. I mean, they're community, I can't think of the word I want, outreach, community health, anyway, they're based around the community.
Right.
Yeah.
And now they do the Oktoberfest to make money.
Yeah.
The groups here overlap. The same people are in each group.
Yes.
They just do a different job.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyhow, that I think takes care of
So what? Okay. So
Only, I don't know how long So What's going to live.
Why
We've got
do you
a
say
whole different group of people now. Last meeting, yesterday,
Yeah.
the girl who's president, and she's up in Silver City. She just likes this area and what we do. And she comes down and is president.
Who's that? What's her name?
Beckenbach. Karen Beckenbach. Yesterday, she was trying to get a nominating committee, and we have a sheet and people sign up for
Right.
what job they're willing
Office.
to do.
Right.
And there are lots of jobs, like I am historian, and I am on the committee that does scholarships. We sort out the kids and the money.
Yeah.
And Jerry Hernbrod and I go to the rest home and do Easter, the Easter fun things for the little old people.
Yeah.
Okay, that's 3 jobs I'm willing to do.
Yeah.
But what they can't get is a president and a secretary.
And are there, so one is getting people to volunteer. Are there younger women coming in, or are you the folks active now? Are you worried about?
Well, how
That's what-
young can you be and live at Portal?
Well, that's true.
You've got to make
Yeah.
a living.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're, yes, young compared to us, but they're
Yeah.
retired.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I meant. Is there do you see sort of the? I shouldn't have used the word young because we're. You're right.
It's young.
Yeah, it's young and it's not. But is there the next generation? Are you worried about it not
Well,
continuing?
they're just not people who want to run clubs.
Yeah.
And yesterday, I was amused when she was trying to get somebody to volunteer
Yeah.
to help get a president and a secretary. Everybody was looking at the table. Nobody wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And I heard Carolyn Deering say, and Carolyn Deering is young by my standards, she said, I have done every job in this club. I've been president, secretary, treasurer, etc., etc. It's somebody else's turn to do it now.
How many people? How many women are in it? Would you say that come on a regular basis and are active? And,
Probably about 30,
oh, so that's a good size number.
but more belong.
Right.
I
Yeah,
don't-
that's why I specifically said the ones that show up for meetings. and get-
Maybe 25.
But that's a good sized group.
It is,
You know, so it's a little surprising it can't.
but they don't want to do the jobs.
Here, and then I have this other funny question because what would happen? Would they ever consider men coming, or would that change the whole? Or maybe at this point it wouldn't change it. What would that?
I don't know. Bob Chu insisted that we had to take him in, but Bob Chu wanted to belong. And whenever that ruling came out that, sports.
Yes, Title IX was.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
He said, you can't discriminate. And so I want to come. And we said, discriminate or not, Bob, you're not coming.
So my idea or question about men coming probably wouldn't go over too good.
I don't know. They've thought about it before.
Uh-huh.
I think it would change the whole character of the thing.
Yeah.
Would it be able to do what it does? Because, men don't think like women.
No, like we were talking the other
And
day.
so it would never occur to them to go down to Cypress Inn and do something for the little old people.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't think about that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, we might go out and build something in Portal. Yeah.
But the husbands help.
Yes.
And there were men there yesterday to hear Jeannie's talk.
Yeah.
We let men come and hear the talks.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We
Yeah.
may finally bring them in, just make a whole different club.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it gets its jobs done.
Yes.
But you've got to have a president and a secretary to
Yeah.
glue the thing together.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I don't know how that's going to go.
Yeah, well,
We'll
hopefully
just have to
it'll
see.
continue. So the other thing I was really interested in, because I know you had a long history in Portal Rescue.
Okay.
So wherever you want to start with telling us about how Portal Rescue got started.
Okay.
Because I think you were there, you and Renee were there in the beginning.
In the beginning.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Alice Newton wrote this book, Paradise Revealed.
Yeah.
And she wrote it so that the proceeds would go to Portal Rescue.
Yeah.
I don't think there were many proceeds when it got paid for because it's so many colored pictures.
Yes. It
And
took a lot to publish it.
That cost her so much.
Yeah.
So since I was the oldest person here who had been in Portal Rescue and was there in the beginning,
When did this come out? I can't remember. It's been 3 or 4 years. Does it have a copyright on it?
I don't
Let's see.
know.
I would say 2014 or 2015.
Yes.
Yeah.
She wrote this little thing in memory of Delane Blondeau in 2014. So
Okay,
I'm
well-
thinking that's when it came out.
Okay, just so we have the date on
A
there.
date.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So you're the oldest member of Portal Rescue when that came out?
Still alive. Okay, I don't see it.
No, that's okay,
But we know it
2014.
was in. So she said to me, since you're the oldest one alive, and you were there in the beginning, would you write a preface for this book?
Yeah,
Which I did write. I went back and got information from everybody and stuff they'd left behind. Bob Morse had written up a lot of stuff, and so he was a good source. He was dead by then,
yeah.
but his writings were a good source for me to go back to.
So
Okay.
let's start from the beginning.
So
How did
how
it
did
get
it start?
started? Yeah, who was there? How to get started? Whose idea was it?
Okay, we came out here, and everybody, so many people had come from towns
Yeah,
where the doctor was somewhere in town, and you had an ambulance service that would come and get you when you called it. And we get out here, and the doctor is 60 miles away, which
Yeah.
seemed like the other side of the earth when you first come out.
yeah,
And there was no ambulance to come get you. People just tossed the sick in the back of the pickup and drove them in.
right.
And if they died on the way, well, we've done the best we could.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, town people think that's not good enough, guys. What else can we do? Well, what year was it? Probably 79.
So you guys were still building your house then when you got involved, right?
Yeah, yes.
Because 1980, I remember from the other day when we talked, you got done with the house was finished.
Yes.
So 79 sounds right. Okay.
Yeah, about then, I think.
Uh-huh.
And Joe Schatz moved into rodeo. I do not know how Joe Schatz ended up in rodeo. He and Joyce were he was a New Jersey
Oh.
lawyer.
Oh, yeah, that explains. Yeah, how did he end up in rodeo?
How did he end up here? But when he got here, you know, he was used to dealing with bureaucracies and that kind of thing. He said, well, we should have some kind of medical service here. So he went to the, whatever the organization is in New Mexico,
Okay.
their health system.
Okay, something to do with the state, probably.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
state health system.
yeah.
Plus, they had a going concern in Lordsburg of EMTs. And they were kind of beginning to put EMTs out into rural areas. And so Joe went, and he came back after dealing with those two organizations, and he had a grant for Cochise College to teach a group of people here to be EMTs.
Yeah.
So people signed up, and he had about 24.
Oh my.
And that was too big a group for the guy they brought out. And so the guy they brought out to teach it out of Cochise College,
Yeah.
divided into two groups. So one group would learn here at Portal in the library,
Yeah.
and the other group would learn down at Apache School.
Okay, so they had I was going to ask, so it broke it up between rodeo
Yes.
and Portal.
Between the New Mexico group and the Arizona group.
Yeah.
And that everybody was happy with that. That was good.
Yeah.
So then we came out with a lot of EMTs, but what you got to the call in your pickup, and your call came in on the telephone.
Yeah, because you had no vehicle.
We didn't have anything.
Did you have any equipment?
We had one thing. If you look up on a high shelf in the schoolroom, the classroom, over
At Portal
the
Rescue.
firehouse,
Yes, yeah.
there
I've seen
is
it.
kind of like a bucket with a lid.
Yeah.
Uh,
I've seen.
that was a first responder kit, and it had, a stethoscope and a blood pressure cuff and a few Band-Aids and and some tape and some gauze, and that was about it. And we had that in our well house out here.
On your property?
Yes. So if you got a call, you ran down to our well house, picked up the kit, and went wherever it was.
If I was here and I had an emergency, who would I know to call? Was there a phone number, or you had a list of, like, here's Renee and Delane, and here's the EMTs?
I'm thinking that the Griffiths were here at that time, and they ran the store. Russ and Devery.
Oh.
And Devery had been dispatcher for the police in some place. And she was very good. She was excellent. And so Devery, in the beginning, maybe people called the store because we didn't have any radio yet either.
Yeah, and there wouldn't be a central number.
So they
that
must
makes
have
sense.
called the store, and she would call.
She'd call out knowing some. Okay.
Are you available?
Yeah.
No. Well, I'll call the next person.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think that was how it worked there in the beginning. Well, New Mexico always knew it had a rural area.
Yeah.
Arizona has never known it to this day. So Joe could get an ambulance in the New Mexico area. So he got an ambulance, and the New Mexico EMTs then would look more or less after their people, and we would go to our calls, get them patched up the best we could, and by then we had called the ambulance out of New Mexico.
Yeah.
And Izzy and Ramon Escobar were the people who came, usually whenever you called.
So they would come up from rodeo. You guys would
Yes.
do
Yes.
do the additional, and then
And then
they'd
we
come
would
up.
say, here's the first care form, this is what we figured out about this person.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so then we would say, do they need to go into the hospital at Douglas?
Yeah.
Or have we done all that needs to be done for them?
Yeah.
Okay, so we would do that.
Yeah. When you first started, and you're at this stage, were there any, what am I trying to ask, big events that happened, or stories you remember, funny things, or maybe tragedies, or big
After a while, not here at the beginning. One at the beginning, Alden Hayes lived down in the house where Jeannie lives now, Jeannie Williams.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
And his wife had had a stroke when they lived in Albuquerque, and so she couldn't talk. And Alden looked after her like an angel. So Gretchen had some kind of an event, and so Alden called, and the ambulance came, and we were involved somewhat, some way, but I don't remember that. But anyhow, the ambulance came, and she was already dead.
Oh, wow.
And she had an aneurysm that broke, I believe.
Yeah.
Well, and you had to have a doctor say this person was dead
Right.
before you could do anything with them.
Right.
Well, fortunately, Doc Russell, Dr. Finley Russell, who at that time was a doctor in, I think, L.A., and taught at the college, one of the colleges in L.A., happened to be at his place here,
Oh, this
where
is
Linda
Pretty and John.
Pretty and John live now.
Yes.
So he happened to
Okay.
be here.
Yeah.
So
He just came right over.
Alden had called him whenever she first had her first
Yeah.
whatever it was.
Yeah.
Actually, I think Gretchen just kind of sat up and died.
Yeah.
I think that
Sounds
was
like a stroke or a heart attack or something.
it was this burst
Oh.
aneurysm.
Oh.
So he could say, yes, she was dead. Actually, she was dead when he got there.
Yeah.
And so he said that, and so then when the ambulance got there, it was kind of anticlimactic, I think. But anyhow,
Yeah.
they came.
So initially, rodeo had better equipment, better supplies. How did things
Yes.
change? Because now here, and maybe that's a lot of history, but things changed.
Well,
Yeah. So
yes.
what happened? Keep us going.
Well,
on history.
things were going smoothly until Cochise County, some of the higher-ups in Cochise County, and Hidalgo County talked to each other. And they said, oh, Hidalgo County said, well, I don't think you meet our requirements. And so we're not coming over there anymore. They had this fuss. And we paid the consequences of the fuss of these people. In 2 years, you have to recertify. Every 2 years,
The
you go back
EMTs,
and get some
yeah.
more training to update you.
Yeah.
Well, by the time the 2 years were up, we lost most of the members. They hadn't gone on a call. And we were, by then, you paid your own
For the training.
updating
Yeah.
for the training.
Right.
And they said, well, I haven't gone on a call, and I don't want to belong anymore, and
yeah.
I'm not going to pay for that training. So we lost a big chunk of that 24 people we had in the beginning.
Yeah.
And so then we had to scramble around and find us some more people. Well, we got a vehicle finally. There was some organization that went on before that, because I remember Renee and me going up to Tucson and talking to the Arizona Health Department people.
Yeah.
And they wanted you to be like the people in town.
Oh. As
And
far
we
as
said, no, we're
training,
in the country.
equipment. Yeah. Yeah.
Give us a little slack here to operate in the country the way we ought to.
Yeah.
Well, they weren't keen on that. We fussed with them, and we still fuss with them about that. Anyhow, I remember we organized our group. You had to make an organization to get anything.
Right. Incorporate.
Yes.
Maybe. Yeah.
So we did that. And Bob Morse said we ought to have a board of directors. The EMTs should just do medical stuff. They shouldn't be having to run the thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we got a board of directors. And Devery Griffiths I think she was the first president. And she was good. She was good. She shaped that group up.
Good organizer. Yeah.
And so then we got a vehicle. I think we got a brush truck from somebody first.
Oh, maybe the Forest Service or something.
Oh, wait
no?
a minute,
Yeah.
we got the brush truck when we became a fire department.
Yeah. That's.
I think the first vehicle we got was it was a vehicle that had been in the Miracle Valley fight.
Oh.
You know about the Miracle
No.
Valley fight?
No.
There was a group of black people who came out of Chicago,
Hmm.
and they had a religious leader who was a lady, a woman,
Yeah.
not a lady, a woman.
Yeah.
And so they built a little enclave over there by,
Is that over by Bisbee? There was a community there that
it
between
was
Douglas
beyond
and
Bisbee. It was
Yes.
a little
between
a little town. I can't remember the
it was
name.
between
of it.
Bisbee on the road you go to Sierra Vista.
Yes.
I can't. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And they had a dome
Yeah.
on their place. You can still see that.
Yes.
Well,
And-
they came out, and the neighborhood was kind to them. They weren't used to a bunch of blacks in a way, although lots of blacks had always been at Fort Huachuca. And those were the Buffalo Soldiers who were
Right.
black.
Right.
Well, the neighborhood invited them in, and they were good to them, and they were nice to them, and they began to take advantage of that. And the kids went to the school, and everybody's trying to be nice to the little black kids in school. Well, the black kids got a swagger, and they began to, talk back to the teacher and just be all kinds of bad. And that whole group of blacks began to decide to lord it over the neighborhood there, that little town,
Oh.
and scared the bejeebers out of the white people. They would cruise up and down the streets at night. They would yell.
Oh.
I don't know if they shot guns off or not, but
Right.
they did scary things in that little town. Well, the town became resentful.
Yeah.
And the sheriff would try to quiet things, and that black group were very defiant to the sheriffs and anything that had to do with law and order. And finally, some people from the black community had done some things, men, I think, and so the sheriff was going to make them pay some fines or something to pay for what it was they had done. Well, they came out to fight against them. This whole group of people came out to fight against the sheriff and his deputies. They came out there to do something. Well, they didn't want to make a racial incident out of it because we didn't have those.
Yeah.
Well, it became that anyhow because some shooting ensued,
Oh.
and the black people had some guns, and they attacked the police with whatever was at hand, sticks,
Oh.
brooms, whatever they could get their hands on, whap, whap, whap,
Yeah.
and guns finally. And this vehicle had belonged to the police department. It started out its life as a vehicle that pushed a snowplow up north somewhere. And how it got down here, I don't know. But it did, and it had these gun holes, bullet holes in the door.
Oh.
And the sheriff was friendly to us. Who was the sheriff? His name escapes me at the moment, but anyhow, we wanted a vehicle, and he said, well, I've got this one, and we don't need this anymore. We'll give this to you.
Did the community fell apart over there? The black community with the woman leader?
Yes.
They eventually
After that gunfight,
Yeah.
they went back to Chicago.
yeah, because you can see it looks like a ghost town kind of
Yes.
now. Yeah.
Yes.
So, okay. So, and then the sheriff gave you the first vehicle here.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's how you got it.
So then our guys put how you can make a van into a
Oh, it's
into
just
an
a van.
ambulance is kind of it was
Yeah.
a van. Into an ambulance was kind of difficult.
Yeah.
But anyhow, they got it so you could put a person in there
Mhm.
and some little shelves here for your gauze and stuff.
Yeah, it's not the
we-
kind of ambulance we think of today with the lights and all the medical
No.
equipment.
And actually, I don't think we ever carried anyone in it,
Uh-huh,
but it was our vehicle.
yeah,
And then we got a radio, and then Devery had a radio down at the store.
yeah,
And in fact, it had an extension in their house, so it could wake them up at night
yeah,
and call people.
yeah.
Well, things got better. We organized, we got insured, we were incorporated.
You know, one thing, when you incorporate, you can then raise money, and it's if I give money to a nonprofit, and I can claim it on my taxes, so that probably helped with now you can fundraise.
Yes.
You know, so.
And you could get grants.
Yes,
So then we began to try to do that.
yeah,
Well, that grew and grew. And then finally, and while that was growing, we got the fire department.
that's what I was
going.
wondering, how did the fire department get started?
So Bob Morse was the instigator for that.
Yeah,
And Renee was his backup.
yeah,
Bob was very good at organizing, but he couldn't lead. People would not follow Bob. He didn't have the personality for it.
yeah,
But Renee was a more mellow person. He wasn't an organizer,
yeah.
but he was a backup system.
He was more of a people person?
Not so much that, but a follow-through person.
Okay,
We design what we're going to do, and yes, I will get that done.
yeah,
And so Bob sent Renee out into the community to get money for the fire building. But first we got a fire truck. We got this brush truck,
yeah,
which nearly broke us because it kept breaking down all the time and nearly bankrupted us. And then, step by step at a time, we got better and better stuff. Dennis McAvoy was just a great person for this group because he could weld. And he would weld things like water trailers and whatever you needed. Dennis could get out there and weld something up and make it work for us.
When early on, when the fire truck, you know, you had the fire truck, were there any big fires? Because more recently there's been some big fires, but were there brush fires?
No, they
you
were small. They
okay.
were brush fires.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we went to train to be firemen. We may have done that before we had the truck. I don't remember. But anyhow, women and men both
Uh-huh,
went to train.
yeah,
And I remember we were doing this training somewhere or other, and prisoners were being trained with us. And Helen Snyder always used to love to tell this story. We were all dressed up in our fire stuff
right,
because
right.
we'd been out practicing and we were going to lunch. And it was yellow Romex, I think it's
yeah,
called.
exactly. Forest Service uses
Yes.
that, or yeah.
And so everybody looked alike. And you couldn't tell the prisoners from other people, except the prisoners were very polite to the ladies. I was amused with that. So we were in line, and she remembers this prisoner said to me, "And ma'am, what are you in for?" Which was a funny thing, yes. So we got a vehicle, and then we kept getting more vehicles. We got an ambulance. Where'd that ambulance come from? Oh,
You got a newer.
I don't remember.
You got a real ambulance this
Yes.
time instead of
Yes.
something you had to convert.
It might have been when Plius disintegrated, and that was 20 years afterward. I don't know. But anyhow,
Yeah, yeah.
I think we got an ambulance from Plius
Yeah, a real ambulance.
at one time. And then when we got some money, Barney Tomberlin
Yeah.
had worked for a fire department in California.
Yeah.
And when he came here, his buddies would send us all their leftover stuff.
Yeah.
We had acres of hose, for instance.
Oh.
And so then we wanted an ambulance, and they had one. They sold us at a bargain because every so often they have to get a new one.
Yep. Yeah.
And so it came, and we paid a bargain price for it, and they had painted Portal Rescue logo
Oh,
on it
nice.
as a little gift.
And that was the first time you had sort of an official.
a real kind of ambulance, I believe.
Yeah.
That was the first time.
Yeah.
At least it was a good one.
Yeah.
And so, what was I going to tell about after that?
Well, I was thinking while you're thinking about it, how long did you and Renee stay involved in the fire department? How many years were?
I think 15.
Yeah.
We were there, and then we wouldn't have any people who wanted to be EMTs. And in the end, there were the Chews and us. And then the Chews got out, and there was just Renee and me.
So for a while, it
so
was just
then
the
we
two.
were running around recruiting, trying to get some more people to be EMTs.
Right.
And that did work out,
Yeah.
finally.
Was that just one period? It was just the two of you, or did it?
Yeah, just that
Just
one
at one
period.
time
There
there
was
was-
just the two of us.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Wow. Huh.
And so then we began to accumulate vehicles, and we got fire trucks and this ambulance,
Yeah.
and so these vehicles were being farmed out in the community.
Uh-huh.
Different people with garages would keep your fire truck for you, so you got a call. You had to run all around the neighborhood collecting your stuff. One of them was in Teddy Trawler's barn.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I think you're going where I was, because now today you look and there's a beautiful fire hall, 2 buildings there, classroom, and I think that's where you're going. Where?
Yes.
When did that? Tell us about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Bob Morse said, well, we got too many vehicles. We need a place to store them.
Right.
And so we went out in the neighborhood and said, would you be willing to buy a garage for our vehicles? And yes, they would. The neighborhood has always been very good about contributing money to fix things. So I remember Bob and Renee drew up the plans for it, and it was just the bay.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have the classroom then.
Mm-hmm.
It was just the bay to put one fire truck and the ambulance. And I can remember we had the plans, and we somebody in Clovis was going to supply the materials, some company over there.
Huh.
And Renee and I went over there. My mother lived not too far from Clovis, so we...
That's New Mexico.
So yes, Clovis, New Mexico. So we incorporated going there on a trip to my mother. And so I remember we went in and we looked at the pictures of the buildings, and we told him what we needed, and he showed us the materials, and we okayed that.
Yeah.
And then...
How did the site get chosen? The land where the buildings are.
Yes, we needed a place.
Right.
And we didn't know where. And Mary and Bill Willie,
Yeah.
I can't remember if Bill was an EMT or not, but Pat, his brother,
Yep. Pat Willie.
trained to be an EMT.
Yeah.
They gave that piece of land up there.
I did. Okay, that's good
yes,
to know. Yeah.
they did.
Yeah.
And so then we put our first building up there, and local people came and built it. Yes, and
Yeah.
we were very
Do you
proud
know,
of that.
I'm trying to, because I don't know about, when was that built? I know when the second one was built.
Wonder if I put that down here.
Well,
I don't know.
we'll figure it out.
When that was
Yeah,
built.
Yeah, yeah, because that
And
was,
then the years went by,
yeah,
and they added the classroom. They added the classroom in about 97, I'm guessing. And then we just kept getting all these vehicles,
yeah, needed more space again.
and they needed another building to put those vehicles in.
And that, because that came after my father-in-law helped with that, along with Bob Deering and
Yes.
Renee and other people.
Yes.
I don't know, but I believe that was 2000, after 2000 anyway, 2002 or something
Yes.
like that.
I remember Pi, what was Pi's name in those days? She's remarried.
Wasn't-
Anyhow, Pi was president of the
Portal Rescue?
Portal Rescue
Yeah,
of the board,
yeah,
and so she was discussing. We were discussing that we needed this other building for our other vehicles, and stupidly, I said to Pi at the end of the meeting, "But Pi, you didn't assign anybody to
Oh.
do anything about
Well, I
that."
know who got elected then. You did.
So she said, "Oh, I didn't, did I? Well, it's you." I remember getting philosophical at one time, and I thought, if you're the one that sees the problem, are you the one to solve it? Well, whether it's true or not, that's what happened.
Yeah.
So yes, we organized a group, and we went out house to house, told them what we wanted and what money could they give. We sent letters to people who didn't live here, and we pursued this until we had enough money. This committee that we put together to build that building.
Yeah, and it's quite, I don't know how much bigger, but it's quite a bit bigger than the
Well,
first
the,
building.
the bay just held two vehicles,
Yeah,
and the new building holds 6.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
that's
3 times bigger.
Yes.
About, yeah.
And in the floor, they built a heating system, remember,
Yep,
to keep them from freezing in the winter.
yep, yeah, we have
But
pictures.
with global
of that.
warming, I don't think it's going to ever freeze again in the winter.
But yeah, we have pictures of that whole process, and the
yes.
Historical Society has some
Yes.
of that, yeah.
Okay, and
Oh.
about calls, yes, I remember some interesting calls. And
Okay.
by then, they were like twins. The Portal Rescue, the fire part, and the EMTs were like twins because where one went, the other went.
Yes, yeah,
The fire department could make money because if they got called out of their territory and took vehicles and men to fight a fire, not in their territory, the wildland fires people, whoever they were,
yeah.
would pay our people money.
Yeah, because they would work on, or still do, on forest fires for the
Yes.
Forest Service.
Yes.
Is one example, yeah.
And also wildfires outside the territory.
Yeah,
The EMTs never made money. We at one time said to the Central Group in Arizona, well, we are not going to charge our people. They have put so much money into this that they are going to get free because it isn't free. They have already paid.
yeah.
But maybe we could charge outsiders who come in. No, you have to charge everybody the same. Okay, everybody gets free service then. So that's how it's always been.
So, just to clarify, so you mean if, for example, I needed help, That's what you were talking about. The question was, should we charge for a run to come out to help in the, I got it. I was thinking about the EMTs for training, but you meant for if they came out, so it's a
If they
free,
made a call.
yeah, it's free service for everybody.
Yes, and it is still free
How
service.
about
for
the
everybody.
helicopter? It seems to me I've seen some pictures
Yes.
of you and Renee early on doing a training with a helicopter. I'm not sure of that, but were you guys active when the helicopters started?
We
or-
just watched and got people to them.
Okay, okay.
Although we would have training, like if the helicopter lands,
Yeah, that's what I've seen.
how do you bring your person up here and
Yeah,
don't get your head cut off by the rotors?
yeah.
And one time, one of our Forest Service guys rappelled down out of the helicopter,
Wow.
and we saw how that was done,
Yeah,
but none of our people ever trained to do that.
yeah, they're assistant.
And that had to do with the Forest Service
Yeah.
rappelling down out of the plane.
But at some point, the helicopter got added as part of the emergency service to it, so that if it was real serious, the EMTs would come, and then if it's decided it was a certain emergency level of it, then they would bring you up to the rescue building, and then you could be helicoptered out.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it a heart attack?
Okay.
Does it look like that? Does it look like a stroke?
Yeah.
Is it a leg that's broken in the femur?
Yeah.
Because you can bleed
Bleed.
out dead on that problem.
Yeah.
Or that kind of emergency
Yeah.
that it takes an hour to get them in the ambulance and go to Douglas.
Yeah.
And that was when we had a hospital in Douglas.
Yeah.
So they decided you can practically do it in 20 minutes if you think you've got a heart attack
Yeah.
and you call
Yeah.
for the helicopter.
Yeah.
You hope it starts at that moment,
Right.
and you can turn them back if you decide, oh no, it was heartburn.
Yeah.
It's not a
Yeah.
heart
Yeah. It's
attack.
not serious. Yeah.
But if it looks like a heart attack, you send them out whether it's heartburn or not.
Yeah.
Because there's such a short time. Yes.
Where does the helicopter, where did it go at that point?
We cleared off an area over there by the building,
Yeah.
and they land there.
And so, and then where do they take the person?
It has to do where the helicopter came from.
Oh, okay, sure. So it's not,
If it came out of Safford, it would usually take them to Safford.
yeah,
If it came out of Douglas,
yeah,
it might take them to Douglas, but if it was a biggie, they would go straight to Tucson.
Tucson.
And you had to, as EMTs, you had to work under a doctor.
Yep.
And our doctor was in Tucson.
Oh,
And so you would be out on a call, and you would say, now this looks really serious. You would call in and say to your doctor source, this, and this appears to be wrong with this person, and
Yeah.
this is why we think so.
yeah,
We think we would like to do this with him.
yeah,
And he would say, yes, it sounds like that's the thing
yeah,
to do.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so you had to have his permission
yeah,
to fly people to hospitals,
yeah, yeah,
and they would be taken in. So yes, we had some interesting calls. One I remember, it was in the night, and we got a call. And by the way, our system, our call system got better and better and better. And we got radios. Everybody had a radio, and the call would go out, and everybody would get the call, and
yeah.
these people would say, I'm available, and the people who weren't available wouldn't answer. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we did that in a fairly good way.
It's
So this
important.
call was at night.
It's raining. We've got,
Yep.
that's if you hear, yeah.
Yeah, we better put that in. It's raining.
Raining, yeah.
This call was at night. So Renee and I were on this call, and we jumped up and we put our little jumpsuits on and our coats on over our pajamas and put our shoes on, and off we went. And somebody drove the ambulance up. It wasn't us. We never were ambulance drivers.
Mm-hmm.
The call was at Barfoot.
Mm-hmm.
A group of Boy Scouts were camped up there.
Mm.
And a bear
Oh.
had gotten to this scout, they told us. First, they just told us it was an emergency.
Yeah.
And we went there, and here's this little scout sitting there, all big eyes. I'm sure he was in shock.
Yeah.
All big eyes, silent. You ask him a question, yes, no. And so what had happened was you were supposed to wear clean underwear to bed, clean pajamas, and nothing that had any food stains on it
Right.
because of the animals.
Right.
Well, this kid went to bed with a candy bar in his pocket of his pajamas. Well, in the night, a bear comes along and says, I would like to have that candy bar, and it's kind of stuck to that person, but I'll just take it. And so the kid got clawed where the bear was taking the candy bar out, and there were, I think, some teeth indentations. It didn't break the skin,
though. Oh,
but
okay.
a few indentations when the boy came to and was trying to get rid of a bear. And so they decided, you really don't know what this bear, what the claws did.
Right.
And you don't know if there's infection or what is there.
Yeah.
So we need to get this kid out to a hospital.
Yeah.
So by car lights and flashlights, we brought the helicopter in.
Oh my!
And it
That's
took
nice.
this kid off,
Uh-huh.
to the hospital.
Oh,
And
that must have been exciting for the
that was
the pilot
exciting.
of the
Yes.
helicopter too,
Yes.
or everybody. Were there any other unusual?
Well, a fire call, I remember, was interesting. We had a liaison person between us and TMC, Tucson Medical Center, and her name was Bonnie, and Bonnie was good. And she would come out and give us little lessons to bring us up to date on things and keep us connected to the doctor there. And so we were a rural area, and she said, I understand rural areas because I was in a rural area in Maryland. Well, how rural can you get in Maryland?
Yeah.
I don't know, but we all
I'm
thought,
from there, and it's not very rural in most of the areas. Not compared to here.
we thought, Bonnie, I'm not sure you really understand. Well, Bonnie was here doing one of her lessons one time. And by then, I think we had the classroom. Not sure about that, but anyhow, we're having our lesson, and a call comes that there's a fire up here. There is a dump up here where the Forest Service dumps stuff.
Okay.
And they had brought some stumps that had been burning somewhere up in the forest. Maybe they were in a camp, I don't know.
Yeah.
And they had not soaked them in water, and they had dumped them up there.
Yeah, the Forest Service created their own fire.
Yes. And so those stumps were burning, and they were catching other wood that had been dumped there on fire. And the smoke was blooming up over there, and it's near the homes. What homes?
Was it up
near?
by the visitor center, or it's more?
No, it's this side. You can see it from here, but I'm not quite sure where. But anyhow, it was a threat to, like where Linda Pretty lives.
Yeah.
and some whatever other houses. I can't remember what other houses, but yes, if it got in the grass and went zipping away, it was going to really be bad. So we got the call. Well, the people who were EMTs were mostly all firefighters too.
Right.
So we said to Bonnie, we're the firefighters too, and we've got to go to this.
Right.
So we all dash out and grab what fire stuff we can that was in the bay, and head for the fire up there. And I can remember Debbie, she was named Rothplatz then. What is Debbie's name now?
I don't know.
Starts with a B. And Bernard.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Well, little Debbie Bernard, our truck that we had was a water hauler.
Yeah.
And it was from the military, and it still had camouflage paint on it.
Yeah.
And it was a behemoth. I mean, it was a big old thing. But Debbie knew how to drive it. So Debbie leaps into the driver's seat, and we push Bonnie in there with her. And Debbie has to chin the steering wheel to be able to see. And we chug up there, and then we all leap out, and the guys put a hose on the truck, and they're spraying water, and we're chopping on the wood, and
right.
And anyhow, we're putting out this thing. And we were always good, because I'm telling you, after that, Bonnie had much more admiration
she
for us.
She got to see what you
than
really...
she had before. And that has paid off in time since. Bonnie is now retired. But before she retired, I heard a story that she was having a group up there at the hospital, and it was people from around areas, mostly urban guys who belonged to those EMTs for the urban system, and our people, the outliers, and our people were there, and so she was going around. How many calls did you have this month?
Right.
And of course they would have 100 or something.
Right.
Well, Renee and I rode with the Tucson Fire Department one time.
Yeah.
And it was Simplesville. You go, you pick up the person, and no matter what's wrong with them, you just zip over to the hospital in 5 minutes.
Right.
So they would usually do a, what was it called? Pick up and go.
Yeah.
Well, you don't pick up and go here.
No, you have to help.
And so our people had like about 10 calls.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's snickers among the rest of the group. And Bonnie got on their case. She said, "Don't you snicker." She said, when these people go on a call, they can be 2 hours up in the forest looking after somebody until they can get them to the hospital, which is an hour away from their central operating system.
Yeah.
And she said, "They're good. Don't you diss them."
Yeah.
And she really fought to the course.
And that's still true today. I mean,
yes.
The time with the helicopters cut it down, but you still have a long way to go.
And the call I've always been proud of, although I was not a part of it, I wasn't an EMT anymore, was when they got the call that there was a one vehicle rollover on 80. And Jerry Hernbrod was on that call, so I know all about that.
Yeah.
And yes, it was one vehicle, but it had 21 illegal guys in it.
Oh.
And it had a blowout because too much weight in that old beat-up vehicle. And it rolled. And these people were thrown out
Oh.
on the road and out into the pasture there.
Oh.
And so our people were called, and one vehicle rolled over. Well,
Yeah.
you think,
One or two people,
at
maybe.
the most, maybe 4.
Right.
So they went all prepared for this.
Oh.
And the first person on the scene was Max Rothplatz. And he lives in Silver City now. And so that meant he was the one in charge. Well, he looks at this and thinks,
Oh my God.
wow, how am I going to ever handle this? But he had to. And so people came then to help. And our people, and they said, this is bigger than us. We've got to have some help. So Max put in a call for people to come help with these 21 hurt people. One of them was killed. One of them had half his face sliced off. And by the way, the USA paid for the plastic surgery to fix that guy. So that was major. I think I put this in here somewhere, how many vehicles they had
And how many
coming
people
in.
helping? Yeah.
They had, I thought it was 6 helicopters
Oh.
came in, and here I've got it. There's indeed a van with a tire blowout and 21 young illegals. Many are bloodied and badly hurt, and one has received fatal injuries. Fences must be cut to allow for access to some victims, and we need language translators, which I don't think they ever got.
Oh.
Our supplies become as exhausted as we are.
Right.
Ambulances must be called in from all the area, and 8 arrive.
Oh.
Helicopters are radioed for, and 6 of those fly in as well.
Oh.
I asked Max about this, so these numbers should be accurate.
Yeah.
It's a major crisis out here in the hinterlands with no hospital nearby.
Oh. Oh.
So they
that's
took
fun.
care of that. And our little unit,
Right.
it would have been a major thing for Tucson.
Sure. Sure.
And
Oh,
so
that's amazing.
Bonnie had great respect for our group,
Yeah.
and we all have great respect for our group.
So there was one more story you wanted to tell about Portal Rescue.
Yes,
Okay.
a call that I was on. Okay, we get a call to come up into South Fork. And we don't exactly know what that is, but we bring the ambulance up. And it's a group of college kids have come into the canyon, and this girl decides to mountain climb.
Yeah.
And so there is a ledge that comes down low enough she can get on it. And she starts going up the ledge. Well, our mountains are made of rhyolite, and that's a very soft rock. And this rock begins to crumble out from under her, and she's standing up there screaming, and 2 guys start trying to go up the ledge and get to her, and they can't because it begins to crumble under them.
Yeah.
So we don't exactly know, we who are down by ambulance, don't exactly know what's going on, but we know something is going on with the sheriff's department. And what is going on is they have brought in a helicopter, and Jeff G., one of our EMTs, has had rappelling experience. So they take him up on top of this cliff. This is a really high, tall, sheer cliff. And they take him up on top of the helicopter, and then they attach him to something up there, tree, I guess, and then they feed him off the lip of the cliff and down the face of the cliff very slowly. And But before he got there, this girl is really getting tired because there's lots of time has gone by. It took us all day to rescue her. And so her legs are tired and they're shivering, and she's getting really panicky, and she's beginning to yell, "I'm going to jump. My legs are tired. I can't stand here anymore." And somebody got on a megaphone and called to her, "Don't jump, don't jump. Calm yourself down. You can't see it, but we have rescue coming to you, and it isn't going to be long." And then they, with their voice, glued her back to the cliff face again. And here comes Jeff, and she can't look up because she's up against the cliff. But we said, "He's coming down, he's coming down." So then they feed Jeff down very slowly. And when he gets even with her, he calms her down, and they swing him in to her, and he attaches her to himself, and then they let both of them down. And so the girl got rescued by our daring EMT.
Well, Delane, there was one other thing I wanted to ask you was one of the community events that happens every year is the St. Patrick's Day Parade. And I know I asked you at the parade this year, I was curious, how did this parade get started here in Portal?
Okay. O'Leary Squire and her husband Bob moved here and moved into a trailer house that was up there by the telephone company.
The place that you first saw the view from that said,
Yes.
"I want to live here."
Yes, yes.
I'll remember that.
Yes, and a couple had moved in this mobile home there.
Yeah.
And then that couple were friends of the Squires, and they wanted to move into Tucson near the doctor, and so they sold this place to the Squires. Well, O'Leary was from Boston, and she was Irish.
Irish, with a name like O'Leary.
Yes, and O'Leary was rather dramatic and entertaining, and so Penny and I and O'Leary were somewhere, and O'Leary said, "You know, there's always been a St. Patrick's Day parade everywhere I've ever been. And here it is, St. Patrick's Day, and I have not got a parade." And so we know what, she would have done. You go to City Hall and say, "I want a parade," and the town produces one. So we said to her, "O'Leary, there's no City Hall here, And in Portal, if you want it, you make it." So she said, "Okay, how do we do that?" So she and Penny.
What was Penny's last name?
Johnston.
Okay.
She and Penny and I decided, okay, we can make a parade. And then we began to brainstorm, and we'll have an honorary mayor, and we'll do this and that and something else. And then we got the first one together. The community was agreeable. And the first one we had was, it happened that St. Patrick's Day, the 17th, fell on Saturday. And Pat Willie had been born on St. Patrick's Day. That's why his name was Patrick. And so Jeannie Williams said, "I'll make him a birthday cake." So that's how the refreshments started down there in the library. And we still have them in the library. And so the first parade had a couple of llamas in it that belonged to what is their name? Marge and Bob Fagan.
Yeah.
And so we had to put them in Penny's yard. So there's where we met to get started on the parade. And that first year, we made a mitre for St. Patrick, and we were trying to think what to do for a robe.
Yeah.
And so Larry said, "Oh, somebody gave me this green tablecloth with white lace on the edge. I don't know what else we've got. We can use that." To this day, we still use O'Leary's white lace-edged green tablecloth for the robe for the St. Patrick.
Do you remember who the first St. Patrick was, by any chance?
I don't.
Or the first mayor?
The first mayor were two people. We picked Bob Burns from Bill Burns from Paradise, and who was the one down here from Portal? I don't know. We had two guys, and then we would alternate it: a woman, a man, a woman, a man.
So the tradition's always been, well, at that time you started the tradition that the women that organized the parade picked who the mayor was.
Yes.
Is that still true?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'm the only one left. Penny has died and O'Leary has died.
Right.
So
But who picks the mayor?
an unnamed person and I picked the mayor.
Oh, okay. The secret person in
Yes.
you. I didn't know.
Yes. And a funny thing, many funny things happened about that parade. When Renee was St. Patrick, and we have the beard and we have the mitre and we have a
Staff?
staff. And the staff used to have a golden apple on the top.
Yeah.
And Yvette Rahurik gave that to us. Some student had given it to her, and she gave it so we'd have something on the staff. Well, it's supposed to be a shepherd's crook looking thing. But anyhow, Renee was a St. Patrick, and a little girl about 4 came up to him and said, "Are you God?"
Oh.
"I don't think so. I don't think," she said. "I think he would be bigger than you or littler than you, but not the same size." I love that. I love that. And another thing that happened was I always ran the parade because Penny and O'Leary were better about picking up people to be the mayor and thinking of those things.
And so you were more organized.
So I was the one trying to line them up and keep them apart from each other and all of that. So it was a pretty bossy job. And I remember Ray Mendez.
Yeah.
Ray was going to ride his horse in the parade that year because he had a horse that on command would bow. And so he was going to ride his horse. And I was lining people up out there on the road in front of Penny's yard. And I was telling him where he was going to be in the parade. And he said, "Why are you bossing me?" And I said, "I don't know. I always have." So then he was always respectful when he found out I ran the parade. But some other things happened about that parade. When we had the centennial, the 100-year centennial for Arizona, they were going to, they made life-size figures. They were cutouts on cardboard of some important people who started Arizona. And so they were letting libraries have these. And so they thought some smaller libraries, besides just the ones in towns, should get them. So they said, us. And so we said, "Oh, why did you let Portal, instead of Bowie or San Simon or other places?"
Some bigger places than here.
They said, "Because you have a mayor." We didn't tell them it was honorary.
Yeah.
So that was how the mayor.
Do you
paid off.
remember the parade's been going on for quite a few years? Do you
I
remember?
think 26.
That's what I was thinking. It was
Yes, I
20.
think we checked that out this year.
Yeah.
And it was 26.
So that's great. Yeah, it still
That
goes
is
on.
great.
Oh.
And another thing, when Penny was mayor, they opened up the motel.
Oh, yeah.
Well, when they were going to open up the motel, they put a ribbon across there.
Oh.
And Penny was the mayor, and she cut the ribbon.
An official duty for
Yes.
the mayor.
Yes. Oh, and the shamrock in the middle of the street.
Yes.
One time I was in Tucson with Renee, and we were doing something with the Forest Service, and we were up on the third or something floor, and I'm looking out, and it's going to be St. Patrick's Day parade.
Yeah.
And I see in the middle of this cross of these streets where they cross, they have painted a shamrock. I am just amazed at that. That is so great. So I always wanted to paint a shamrock on the street. So I said to O'Leary, yeah, we can do that, Renee, and I'll put that on there.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're still painting it.
Yeah, it was there this year.
Renee is dead, and I don't do it. The gals who run the place now.
I want to know why it's a secret person besides you. Because they don't want to be known, or there's always a secret that picks the mayor.
It's always been secret to pick the mayor.
Oh, I see.
And the mayor has always been secret until he
Yes.
rides in the parade.
Yeah.
And
He or she. Yeah,
Or
I guess
she,
yeah.
and they give them the key.
Yeah.
We have this long golden key made of wood
Yeah.
that Dan Rehurik made for us
Oh, nice.
to be passed on.
Yeah.
And
Oh, so it was secret back when it was you and Penny and O'Leary?
Yes.
Oh, I see. So,
And we just kept it a
Kept it
secret
secret.
forward so people wonder who is.
yeah.
Who
Yeah, well,
did,
see, it works. I'm going,
did
now,
you
who is
pick
that? I want to
this
get
year?
that out of you, but I won't do it.